Welcome back to the Christian Capitalist Podcast, everybody. I'm Rich Sanders. I'm so glad to be joined today by Jillian Dacey, a missionary with Focus Ministries at Clemson University in South Carolina. Good morning, Jillian.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. It's so good to see you this morning. Before we get started, I got to give my quick promotional announcement. We're so glad that Jillian's here today. We're going to be talking about her ministry and the development of the Word of God and faith at Clemson University. Just like all guests on the Christian Capitalist Podcast, you can find out more about her in the show notes. You follow her and link up with her through our various social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And this entire episode is going to be on YouTube. Along with all of those channels, you can always find links to our website to find out more information about our ministry and ways to buy the book on Amazon, including audio, paperback, and the electronic version on Kindle. So good morning, Jillian. It's so great to see you.
So good to see you too. It's so wonderful to be here.
Well, and thank you for joining us today. So you are having a summer in flux. You're currently in Atlanta, Georgia, but have spent the summer in South Florida and are on the way to South Carolina. So tell us a little bit about what you got going on.
Yes, yeah, it's an exciting time, a busy summer. I graduated college in December, and so I've kind of been living at home before I'm starting this missionary work that I've been doing that you mentioned. And so, part of that, we have a training that's down in Florida in a little town called Ave Maria, where Ave Maria University is, and not too far from Naples, which is not a bad thing at all, very close to the beach. And so I spent the month of June there, which is really awesome, doing our training, getting to meet the other missionaries, getting to meet the team that I'm going to be working with. And then I came back home to Atlanta, where I grew up and where my family is. And so I've been here for most of July. And then, I'm going to move to Clemson next week. And so I'm very excited about that as well.
That's so cool. Jillian, that's a ton to unpack. I love it. So let's start at the start. You are just recently graduated from college in December. And if I recall, you graduated a semester early. Is that right?
I did. Yes, I did.
Where did you graduate from? First of all, congratulations on that. That's a
Thank
real
you so much.
Just graduating generally, but where did you graduate from and what was your major?
Yeah, so I went to Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee, which is just such a fun city to live in, Music City. And I actually studied social entrepreneurship, and so, which is kind of funny, because Belmont's such a musical school because Nashville's Music City. And so, so I was a business major, and social entrepreneurship is a little bit unique in itself because it's basically entrepreneurship, but with more of an emphasis on social impact as well. So kind of like those businesses that you see that might be, using some of their funds to support another organization or giving, some of their product away or hiring a specific population of people, any kind of business that really gives back in some sort of way. And then you kind of also see this within the nonprofit industry as well. So it was really a neat mix of kind of social impact classes as well as those business classes as well. So I feel like I kind of got a little bit of everything, which I really enjoyed.
Right on. I love it. Jillian, you may even say that a business that focuses on giving back is a Christian capitalist business. We talk about.
I would definitely say that. Yes, for sure.
We talk about that a lot here on the podcast. So let's talk about that a little bit. For many folks who have not heard the phrase social entrepreneurship, you and I discussed this, I guess after your sophomore year. Social entrepreneurship has such a great ring to it. We made all kinds of entrepreneurs here on the podcast from all over the nation. But from your perspective, as a Christian who's interested in starting his or her own business, what does social entrepreneurship mean? How does that kind of get you started off in the business world as you think about the studies that you had and the classes that you took?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. I think, it's like thinking about business and having this business mind. I feel like business-minded people are always thinking about like, where are we going? Like how do we want to grow? What do we want to build? And I think kind of the social entrepreneurship kind of mindset is more like, how can we also like leave an impact behind as well with what we're creating. And so, I think it's more than just the financial, but it's also like the social of like, how can we not only grow financially, but also grow to have like some sort of impact as well. And I think, just thinking back to my classes, I just remember I think maybe it was like a business law class or something, and our teacher showed us this video. It was like some sort of motivational video, and this guy was talking about how he would always play Monopoly with his grandmother, and she would beat him every time, and they would play over and over, and he would practice and practice, and he finally won, and she was like, and he had like, made all this Monopoly money and all these things, and she was like, great, now it's time to put it all back in the box. And so it's like, I think, kind of thinking about, business in that way, it's like when all is said and done, like at the end of, thinking about this from the Christian perspective, at the end of our lives, like we want to have this impact that we leave behind. And I think kind of with entrepreneurship, it's kind of having that mindset of as well of like how, like, what's the impact that I want to have on the people who I'm serving as well. So whether that's like your
Right.
customers or the people who are working for you, like how do I want to treat them and how can I impact them in some sort of positive way as well as a Christian. And I think, like you said, that is very much the Christian capitalist mindset as
Right on.
well.
Because in the ideal world, I think Jesus tells us we should love our neighbor, and so ideally that impact is love. And in particular, the Christian capitalist focuses on the poor and the needy in our communities, because there's so much. We were just talking about this with uh, a discussion at church in Bible study recently. Jesus, it's kind of a bummer in a way for a social entrepreneur looking to make an impact, because there's only so much time you have in life. There's only so much time we're going to spend together with our neighbors on the planet. But Jesus says we'll always have the poor. So there's a
Yes, yeah.
certain right. There's a certain amount of futility to it, because, oh man, well, if we're always going to have the poor, what can I do? What do you think people can do as social entrepreneurs to make a difference?
That's a great question too. Yeah, I think
It's 9
that,
o'clock in the morning in the Central Time Zone. It's 10 o'clock in the East. I'm throwing some really deep thoughts. Sorry, Julie. We
yeah,
should.
no, they're great. No, I love that though. I think it's a great question. I think it can feel very overwhelming. It's like, oh gosh, like I want to impact all these people and we have only so much time. And I think with, with any type of mission or especially like, social entrepreneurship, it's like, what is like the group that I feel really called to serve specifically? I think that's something that like, came up a lot when you're talking about like, when you're taking business classes and you have to create all these like hypothetical businesses, or if you have actually something you want to pursue, it's like, oh, like what is a particular population of people who I feel really called to serve in this time that I do have. And so I think that like, I think that's something that is super helpful to discern if you're trying to serve other people through your business specifically. It's like we, want to help everybody, but I think if you're feeling called towards a specific issue, a specific population, I would say like really take that and run with that, because, I think, the Lord works with like the kind of experiences that we have. And sometimes if you have a really specific calling towards a specific group, I think it makes it easier to want to give and to want to work with those people. And that way it's also less overwhelming too, because it's, we have to hope that, I can help this group and other people will work with others as well, because we're all called to serve everybody. But it
Exactly.
can be a little bit overwhelming in that sense,
That's
I would
right.
say.
Well, it's so funny you say that, because the Good Samaritan story was in the lectionary a couple of weeks ago for churches like the Catholic Church, the Episcopal, Lutheran, and so on that use a lectionary format. The Good Samaritan story was just a couple of weeks ago. And the lawyer's trying to show out a little bit and prove himself to Jesus and says, well, if I'm supposed to love my neighbor, who's my neighbor? And Jesus tells the story of the Good Samaritan. I guess from your perspective, I never really thought about it that way, but I'm so glad that you talked about discerning and kind of and asking God to call us to serve in a particular community, because it's a fair question to say not just who's my neighbor, but which neighbor do I serve? There's so much poor and need in our communities that it is difficult often to figure out where to start. So let's talk about that for a minute, because by the way, I think we're going to make sure that we clip that part of our conversation and show it to the 5 college clubs that we're starting, the Christian Capitalist College Clubs that are starting this fall at
That's
Notre
awesome.
Dame, Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss, and South Carolina. And I was thinking, because I'm an old man, right? I was thinking, let's do a community needs assessment and figure out, where the needs are that aren't being met. And that may be necessary so we don't reinvent the wheel. But I love just the idea of praying as a group and trying to figure out and discern who we're supposed to serve. Did you
Yeah,
have
for
any
sure.
examples of that either in your classwork or in your extracurricular work at Belmont that could enlighten our folks?
Yeah, I think a really cool opportunity that I had was I got to go on this kind of entrepreneurship retreat, social entrepreneurship retreat, where it was called the Ignite Retreat, I believe. And so there
Mhm.
was a couple of other students who got to go on it with me, and it was just a really neat weekend. There were like different tracks based off of like somebody who had like a business idea that they were like ready to pursue, or if you were more just like trying to, grow as like in confidence as a person, somebody who's like, just growing to be able to, think of yourself as somebody who could start a business. And then kind of the medium was like, I like know that this is what I want to do, and I don't have a particular idea of like what business I want to start, but like what is it actually, kind of like reflecting on like what do I feel called to, um, what kind of mission do I particularly feel called to?
Yeah.
And so I think it was really neat to kind of hear other students in college who were talking about, yeah, I feel really called to serve formerly incarcerated people, or young people, or people like, or immigrants. And so I think, and then when they would share, they would have some sort of personal connection or story that went along with that. And I think that just made such a much more compelling, because I think too, like with business, a lot of it is storytelling. And when you have, whether it's your own story or other people's stories to tell, I think it's a lot more compelling when you have those personal ties. And so I think that was a really neat experience to kind of get to hear about why other people felt called to their particular group that they wanted to work with. And then when they did kind of develop a business idea after that, it was even more like, I feel like they were even more convicted of it.
Absolutely. That's so cool. I love the idea of having that retreat where you can kind of play all that stuff out. All right. So, having said that, though, I don't know if there are two tracks at Belmont, but the social entrepreneurship program, as you summarized just a little bit ago, included folks who wanted to start their own business and go into the for-profit sector, but also included a good bit on nonprofit management. So, what did you
Yes.
learn about on nonprofits and kind of that process of that retreat y'all went through, where people are called to go minister to different populations, can include either the for-profit side or the nonprofit side, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think that's a really cool thing that is happening more so now. Is I think with nonprofits, it's a lot of pressure when you're just trying to raise support, just raising donations. But if they have some sort of internal, way of, generating income as well, that like gives some help. And I think most nonprofits can't fully sustain themselves that way. But I think there's a lot of really, really interesting nonprofits that are really working towards that. I remember, I think one in particular, we had like a speaker from this nonprofit. I can't remember the name of it, in Nashville, but they work with like, I think it's formerly homeless population. And a lot of what they do, they like provide them jobs like lawn care, and they're like washing cars and different things. And so it's like
Oh, that's
generating
cool.
income for those individuals and also the organization, but also providing them jobs. And so I think it's neat in that way too, to kind of bridge um, the gap there of like, you know, becoming more self-sufficient in a way while still providing opportunities for people, and still, seeking to um, meet the needs of the people that, they're working to help.
Absolutely. It's so funny you say that. Later on today, my wife Rebecca, and I are getting to meet with Lee Curtis, who was a guest here on the podcast last
Yes.
fall, maybe January. She's the development director for a nonprofit here in the Emerald Coast called the Emerald Coast Children's Advocacy Center. It helps kids who have been victims of domestic violence. Lee will probably, and I think did say on her podcast, she feels like she's just as much involved in business as any person who's in a for-profit, because if you don't have any money, you have no mission, right?
Right.
So, because unless a nonprofit in many ways has to operate like a business in order to be sustainable. Do you agree with
Oh,
that? I
for
mean,
sure.
you're fresh off the topic from college. What do you think of that summary?
I would definitely agree with that. I think that um, yeah, I think there can kind of feel like a bit of a disconnect, because I think a lot of people think that like it's just about having the heart, but it's like we also need to thrive and like, be successful like financially. It's like you were saying, it's like you said, like what Lee was saying, like we need to be able to run efficiently and effectively as well. and you have to have like the skills in order to be able to do that. And so I think there's kind of a misconception that people who are working for nonprofits are just people who are like have big hearts and just care about the mission and don't really understand business as well. But I think that's a really necessary skill to have in order to make things run well, and like in order to like share the mission more effectively, because it's like you need marketing just like you do in any other business, because you
Right.
need to get people to volunteer and you need to get people to support, and it's also kind of sales because you're inviting people to donate and all these different things. So it's like you need all those same skills, and so I think there is kind of a misconception of that, but I would definitely agree that it's very much the same. It like looks different in some ways, but I would say they would run pretty similar.
I love that. I love that. All right. So I have a question for you then. As a recent graduate, so this we're recording this on July 24th of 2025. So you graduated 6 months ago, give or take. Gosh, Christmas Eve was 6 months ago. All right. So it's
That
been a
is so
quick year.
crazy.
Isn't that crazy? All right. So just yesterday, I spoke with two different young people, both just a hair older than you. One was 23, one was 24. And both of them are in their first jobs after college and hate them. So,
Okay.
yeah. So, as a recent college graduate who has discerned a calling into ministry, which we're going to talk about here in just a few minutes, what was that process like? And what kind of encouragement would you give to those folks who are fixing to graduate this fall or next spring? For rising seniors, because this is a difficult time for many people to try to figure out, what do I do now? I got my degree. I worked so hard. I even graduated a semester
Yeah.
early. What comes next? What was that process like for you?
Yeah, it's very intimidating. I think there's a lot of pressure as a young person to like, have it all figured out. It's like you have to have the perfect job right after college. You have to be making, so much money and living on your own and all these things. And I think it can be very intimidating, especially if that's not how things are looking for you, or maybe like you don't like your first job. And I like moved home right after I graduated, and you're like, oh, like I feel like I'm regressing a little bit, but I think that it just like takes time. It's like, I think the image we have of people just like, becoming successful right away is kind of, it feels like there's a lot of pressure to get to that. So I would just say kind of take that pressure off. I think it's okay if things don't look exactly how you expect. I mean, what I'm doing is not what I expected to be doing at all. And I think just try like trusting the Lord that like you're exactly where he wants you to be. And I think that's kind of what helped me in my discernment of this as well. Because graduating early was not part of my plan. Becoming a missionary is not part of like this plan that I had. But it's like exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I like have full confidence in that. And so it's like, my last semester of college, at that point I kind of like, knew that I was thinking about gonna being a missionary. I would say, like, I think the semester before, the last semester of my junior year, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like so stressed. I don't have a job for this summer. I like don't know where I'm applying to like in the fall. I need to have this all figured out by the time I graduate. And actually, I had a couple of the missionaries who I knew, who I was really close to at Belmont, who were serving at our campus, who reached out, and they were like, we have like our missionary training this summer. Like, they had two of them were married and they had a little boy, and they asked if I would be willing to go babysit for them that summer. And I was like, I don't know. I'm like trying to figure out, these big plans that I have for
Right.
myself,
Right.
after I graduate, and I, need to take this summer to like start working towards that. And I'd already been doing internships and things. And so you're like, you have this, plan, and I'm like trying to stick to it. But I like wasn't sitting right with me. I was like, I feel like I need to like pray about this, because I was like, I feel like I can't confidently say no to this like opportunity. I'd like thought about, mission being an option, but like not really. I like told myself that I had, and I was like, God, that's kind of crazy. That's, whatever.
Not to
And
mention the summer of babysitting. I mean, did you have a lot
right.
of babysitting experience before college?
I mean, Yes, like more so like toddlers. This is like my first 1-year-old. It was funny. My friend Rachel, who was the woman I was babysitting for, she actually like taught me how to change my first diaper. And like I don't think she realized that I didn't know that much by the time I was like spending the full summer with them and their son.
That's funny.
But I learned quickly. So yeah, I took it to prayer, and I was like, I felt like God was calling me to say yes to this opportunity, which I think was really scary because that meant I was actually discerning becoming a missionary, and that meant I had to tell my parents that I was thinking about that because I mean they knew that I was like pretty involved with the Catholic Center. I like led a Bible study and all those things, but I don't think that's something that they were really thinking about as an option for me. And so yeah, me going for that summer kind of meant that that was a part of my discernment. And yeah, I was actually considering it. And so it was just a really unique experience because I got to go to this missionary training, be surrounded by missionaries for the whole summer, and just kind of see what that was like for them. And it was just like so cool to see how much the organization like poured into them, and how like deeply these people desired to grow in relationship with the Lord, and how convicted they were that they wanted to like share this with other people, and like, really sacrifice their whole life to do this. I mean, this is a not super conventional path.
Right.
And so it's like the fact that they're willing to do that was just really cool to me. And I think after spending that summer there, after, and, there's like praying for an hour every day, daily mass, and then all these different classes and things in this community. And so it was just really cool to see. And I think after that, I knew that that's what I wanted to apply. I was like, I'll apply there and like several other places, and the Lord will help me narrow it down. So yeah, I would just say that like if you're feeling interested in something, just like, apply to an internship, test it out, or like go talk to people. I think that would be my biggest advice, is just be like, if you're interested in something, like talk to the people who are doing those things. Because I had talked to like all the missionaries on my campus. I was like trying to be like low key about it. I was like, so what is like, what is that like for you,
Right,
or,
right, right.
and I think that's another like really awesome thing that Belmont really encouraged, like my college, when I was in my classes, was we had a lot of different assignments where it was like, talk to this person in the field that you're interested in. And so it really pushes you to get out of your comfort zone. And like, I think when you're in college, you have a really unique kind of opportunity, because people are you're just trying to learn. You're not trying to gain anything. You're not asking for a job or anything yet. So it's just a cool opportunity to like hear other people's stories and experience, and kind of figure out if that's something you're actually interested in. It's like, or if that's, or maybe not, you get to hear people who are in the field and their experiences. And I think that really is super helpful in kind of figuring out what it is exactly that you want to do.
So, Jillian, yesterday, in talking to these two young folks who are in the middle of trying to decide what their job is going to be next, one of them said, "I just needed to follow my heart." The
Mm.
other one said, "I just knew it in my gut that I wasn't in the right job." So, what do you think about as you're discerning the summer before you graduated, as you're discerning what God's calling you to do? What do you think about those two comments? Because the word that I loved as you're talking about your next step into missionary service after graduation was confidence. So what do you think about when we talk about making a decision with the heart or making a decision with God? Where does your confidence come from in this discernment process after, I guess, during the fall of your senior year and after graduation?
Yeah, I think it's definitely tough when you're feeling pulled a certain direction, but you're like, but all of these things, are like holding me back. I'm really scared of like, yeah, this thing or that thing, or maybe that's a reason why I shouldn't be following, my heart in this way, or like I feel like something's wrong, but this feels like a better opportunity for me. So why wouldn't I take it? And I think, um, yeah, I think that's really, really challenging in kind of this culture where just because something like looks like what you should do doesn't mean it's actually like what would be best for you.
Right.
Um, and so I think the thing that just helps me the most is kind of like, yeah, like writing out all of these like fears that I had, and kind of talking those things through with the people who I like knew had experiences in that. So like, for instance, like me discerning to be a missionary, I like was very scared of, having to fundraise my salary. And I was very scared of like not knowing enough to share with other people and kind of, feeling like, am I even, I'm just like, I just graduated. Like, do I even know enough? Am I even, all these doubts, all these concerns. And I think like writing them out and like seeing them and then praying with them and asking the Lord to really show you like where he's calling you. And if those are things that like he will help you through. Because I think that's the thing too. It's like, yes, like those were still fears of mine and those were still like doubts and worries that I had when I said yes, but I felt really free to say yes because I knew that like in my heart that like I was being called to say yes and the Lord would take care of the rest. And so I think sometimes things aren't always super clear right away, but with time, I think,
as a
yeah,
54-year-old, I can tell you that's
exactly. Yeah. Things are not usually clear.
Exactly. They're not often clear after 3 or 4 decades. So I
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But it's definitely a challenge for sure to discern that.
So Jillian, what as first of all, I've known your dad for call it 30 years, and known your mom for just about that long. How important was it to you to have their support? I mean, you mentioned living at home since you graduated, and I think even now, as we're doing this interview, you're at home, getting ready to move to Clemson. What tell us a little bit about that, and feel free to lay it on thick because I'm going to tell him.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he'll be listening for sure. He was so excited that I was doing this. Yeah, no, it means a lot. I'm really close to my family. There's just 4 of us. I have a younger brother, and yeah, I think that my parents' support meant a lot. I think when I had to share that with them that I wanted to be a babysitter, I was like really scared because and they're very supportive of like what I want to do, but I think they also just care a lot. Um, and so I think it was tough because I know that this was like very unconventional. This is not what they had in mind. And so I think with sharing with them, they were like, okay, like, and I think for me too, it's like, you want to kind of feel like just understand, but I'm like, they didn't have the same experiences that I did, and so it's like it takes more time to kind of explain things to them. And so initially, their initial reaction, I think at first was like, okay, we want to support you. And then I told them, that I'd have to be fundraising my salary. And then there was a little bit more tension there. I think my dad was pretty upset, which rightfully so. I mean, I think that's good. He's concerned. He wants his daughter to be able to, provide for herself. And
your dad's name is Sean Dacey. He's a good friend of mine. Tell everybody, because this, I think, makes what you just said about a little tension of having to fundraise your own salary, I think, even more interesting. What's your dad do for a living?
Yeah, my dad, he's a banker. So he works for a bank. And so, yeah, so I think that also adds a layer as well. He definitely, cares a lot. That's something he's really emphasized. I think there's been I think a difference in perspective, with money before. I think I'm not the most motivated by money. Like I will do like a lot of my internships were unpaid and those sorts of things, and that was never something that I was like will make me work less hard. And I think he was like, but it's still important, and I like have to say it is very important still, to be able to have the means to support yourself. And so I think he was a little bit concerned that I like was unconcerned of how I would be able to support myself, which is not the case, and I understand that that's very important. And I was also very nervous. It's something like that. I think one of my biggest, concerns as well is like, how does this all work? That's like really scary fundraising, but I think it was really cool because having that opportunity after I graduated to come back home and spend a lot more time with them, I really got to share a lot more about like, my personal testimony, my experiences in college in a way that I like hadn't gotten to before. And so I think they were really like, okay, like we see that how much this really means to her. And, I got to share just share a lot more with them and like kind of learn more myself about what that looked like. And so I was able to like help them to understand more too. And so it's definitely been like a journey, but they're both very like supportive now. And if anything now, they're just like, they're, asking me to update them, and they're like very excited for me. So they've definitely like, the Lord's definitely softened their hearts a lot. And I think the understanding has like grown a lot, which has been super helpful.
Well,
But
and
yeah.
sorry, go ahead. What were
I was
you
just
going
going
to
to say, but the reaction was not that way in the beginning at all.
Exactly. Well, but you raise a great point, because as people understand more about the mission and your ministry, I think not only does that understanding help you spread the word, but it also helps get the financial support that you need to survive. Right? I mean, the world is full of people. Some have money, some don't. Those that have money, if they're interested, will want to support you, and that's part of the way that you continue to spread the word. I just basically broke down 2,000 years of church fundraising in about 10 seconds. That's how it goes, right? Because
Right.
none of these churches that we have anywhere on the planet would have been able to be built if it weren't for people giving generously. It's just the way it goes. It's part of
Yeah.
spreading the word. And even in modern depictions of how ministry is supported, like the Chosen, they show there are folks who are
Yes.
they're donating even to Jesus and the apostles, and those folks didn't have buildings, they didn't have organized Bible studies or have to take people to coffee, right? They were just there walking and talking. So I got one more question to loop back with you though, before we move off of this, in terms of your understanding of money and the importance of it. Because for many people, I'm going to say your age, right? I'll just say recent graduates of college, financial management and understanding personal finance is often difficult. It's something that you really don't take a class on in high school unless you're focused, and maybe you had some personal finance education as a social entrepreneurship major at Belmont. You've had a different level of education, maybe just as the daughter of a banker you have, and your mother an entrepreneur. Um, but what do you think you've learned in this process about personal financial management that gives you the confidence to take this leap of faith to say, you know what? I mean, I'm going to go raise my own money to live off of. That is, whether you're for-profit entrepreneur or whether you're a nonprofit missionary, that is a big leap of faith. So tell us a little bit about that from a financial management perspective.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's definitely been super interesting. I think it's really changed my perspective of money. I think, when you're in college, you kind of have this mindset that like, oh, I'm a broke college student. Like I can't, do very much with like what I have. And it feels very limiting. And I think you kind of want to have that similar um mindset like afterwards too. And I think that even though like yeah, I've been exposed to like, opportunities to budget and manage my personal finance as well. Like I can't say that I've been really good at that before. I think I've definitely made efforts to make budgets, and it's not something that I've ever been super consistent with, to be completely honest. And so, but I think now having this opportunity to like um yeah, to receive this gift from others and really see money as a gift, and especially a gift from God, I think it just makes me want to steward it well and kind of really consider how I am managing my money. I think that it's really interesting because I think there is a tendency to like want to pull back in certain ways when you're younger, like, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. But I think it's really, we don't really understand and look at how we are spending our money. And it's like, oh, I probably could have done that if I hadn't spent, so much on new clothes or different things. And I know that's not the case for everybody, but this past Lent, one of the things that I actually did is I gave up like unnecessary spending. So anything that wasn't like necessarily
Oh,
like
okay.
food or gas or those sorts of things, and really, trying to be more conscious of like, yeah, how am I think just like my material attachments, and like how it's like with the culture and everybody having like the newest, like I feel like water bottles are a great example of this. It's like you always see the new trendy water bottle, like the Stanley or the Owala, and everybody,
Right.
but it's like, do I actually need this new thing, or could I say, save that money to like treat a friend to coffee or like different things like that? And I think you really become a lot more conscious of like how you're using um what you have. And I think Yeah, and I think there's a real fear around money. I know that I've experienced that for sure. It's like I feel like my two different personas with money in college were like, I'm either gonna not look and hope for the best at my bank account, or I'm gonna be like super, strict about it and like, to the extent where it's like I'm not gonna, do things that like I probably could do. So
Right.
it's definitely, yeah, I think there's a tension there, but I would say it's good to be aware of how you're spending your money. And I think, having those like budgeting as a young person is like really, really important for sure.
I love that. Oh, I love that. And by the way, Rebecca, my wife Rebecca, who's my age, insists on carrying Stan. We call him Stan. Insists on carrying her Stanley bottle everywhere we go. And I most often ask this question: do we really need this? When Stanley falls on my foot, when we're getting out of the car, or when we're checking through security at the airport, I'm like,
Yeah,
do
but
we
at least
really
she's
need this?
hydrated, she's drinking her water and she's looking cute while doing it. And so that's what, those are the
Exactly.
important things. Yeah.
That's right. You hit the nail on the head. It's more of an accessory than anything else.
Yes, yes. No, and I get it. I definitely am always carrying my water bottle with me, so I can't even be one to talk.
That's awesome. Jillian, I want to loop back to something you just said because it's really, really important for the Christian capitalist movement. We start with the fundamental premise, kind of like the video you watched at Belmont. Everything goes back in the box when you're done playing Monopoly, right? Everything we have is from God. Every time we share a gift, we're sharing something God has blessed us with.
Yeah.
And so I love what you just said a few minutes ago, that this donation to your ministry is a gift from God. And so, do you talk to donors about that and put it in those terms, that what you're giving me to help support my ministry, I think of as a gift from God?
I don't think I actually have been good about saying that. I think for me personally, um, I think that's how I think about it because it's like when thinking about, raising support and like, I think how I put it is like I'm not able to go on mission without the generous support of others, and I know that comes through God. And so um yeah, I guess that's not something I've been the best about sharing, but like with kind of the training that I've had and the understanding that I have, that's like how I think about it when I go into each of these meetings or appointments that I'm having. It's like, the Lord knows who's going to support me on my mission. I just have to kind of figure that out myself and kind of, extend that invitation to others. But He's the one who's providing the means through others. Because He's in control of the funds. He could rearrange things however He would like to. And whether that's, through 70 people or 20 people who are supporting me,
Right.
it's His funds and He's going to, provide for me however He sees best fit. Um, and so I think that I kind of extend the invitation in a sense that it's like an opportunity to join me on mission because I can't do this alone. But I think, yeah, I guess that's a really great point. I think about that personally, but probably could do a better job about emphasizing that to others as well.
Now
It's
you
the
got
Lord's
something to
money.
add. Exactly. All right. So
Yeah.
I want to flip the gears on you then, by the way, to or switch gears on you, by the way, to kind of flip that narrative to you being the giver. Because if I heard the story right, this time last summer, when you're babysitting the 1 year old so that that couple could go through their missionary training, you are giving them a gift from God.
Mm,
Right. So one of our principles is that we serve others as servant leaders. We serve others, and as Jesus says, the first will be last, and the last will be first. Right. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to serve others by giving them a check or Venmo or whatever, but that you can use your time, talent, or treasure to help others in their ministry. And that seems to me, I don't know if you've ever thought about it this way, but that's exactly what you did last summer. Those two missionaries couldn't have completed their training if there wasn't a babysitter, and that was you. So through your service, your leadership, you also were able to serve them and continue to spread the word. So let me ask you this: when you were babysitting that child last year, did you think of that as making a donation to the mission?
I don't think I really did because I think for me, I saw it as an opportunity to really gain this insight. And like, I think those things are really interesting because oftentimes, even when you're giving a gift to others, it's like becomes a gift to you as well. And it was just like, I think for me, I was like, this is such a beautiful, like, witness of family life. It was just so cool to be invited into their family. It was so, wonderful to be able to be surrounded by missionaries and to have that opportunity to be at that training. And like, I think their gift to me was that like I was able to discern much easier whether or not I wanted to be a missionary. And so, yeah, I think that's a really great point. I think to a certain extent, I was like, I feel like I'm, sacrificing part of my summer to help them. But I don't think I really was like feeling, I don't know, like burdened or kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm like giving so much to them, because I really felt like it was a gift to me as well. And I think
Exactly.
that's,
A gift to others
yeah,
is a gift itself, isn't it? And
yes, yes.
and when you give to others, you were and Jillian, this is our 38th, I think, episode, 39th. Time and time again, people come on the podcast and say, it's really true. The motto of the Christian Catholics is the more we make, the more we give. But the more we give, the more we receive, right? To give is
Oh,
a
yeah.
blessing. And then all of a sudden, God blesses us abundantly in return. And now here you are, a missionary, setting off to Clemson in just a couple of weeks. So tell us about that. What's it going to look like when you're at Clemson? This is, I mentioned, July 24th. You're moving over to Clemson first Saturday in August, and then setting up.
Yes.
So what's that going to look like?
Yeah, so I'm so excited. So the ministry I'm working with is Specific College Ministry. And so the organization is called Focus, which stands for Fellowship of Catholic University Students. And so what we do, we're set into teams, and we go to different college campuses. I was placed in Clemson, which was like a huge blessing. It happens to be only 2 hours from where I'm from, which is incredible. Could have gotten set anywhere. So that's just really, really crazy. And so I'm on a team of 6, and we're serving at Clemson. And so a lot of what we do is we really meet students where they are. We go and encounter them on campus. We invite them into friendship. We invite them into Bible studies. And then we also have smaller mentorship groups we call discipleship, where it's kind of like, smaller groups of like, 1 to like 4 people. And you're really walking with them and inviting them to like live out their life fully, and talking about prayer and friendship and just like how they're living their life, to going deeper with them, and then inviting them to, lead others as well. And so I think, so a lot of what we do is really, meeting people where they are, encountering them, and inviting them to authentic friendship, and then kind of having that, we call it spiritual multiplication. So basically kind of like Jesus had as well. He had his, 12 disciples, and then he had, Peter, James, and John, who he poured into a lot more, and then they were able to go out and he was able to commission them to go and invest in other people as well. So it's a very similar thing. We really want to model the master in that. And I think I just like had such a wonderful experience with that in college. It's like, it is such a pivotal time in our lives, especially in young people's lives, especially when it comes to faith, because this is the first time you're on your own. Maybe you go to church or mass and with your families every Sunday, but now it's like, do I want to do that on my own? Like, are the people around me doing that? And I think for me, one of the biggest things that really affected me was like who I surrounded myself with. And even though you might be hanging out with people who might not share your values, or maybe aren't doing things that you necessarily want to do, that does have an effect on you. And I think I definitely experienced that, and then had to, consider what it was how I really wanted to live my life. And then taking a step back and getting involved with the Catholic Center, I think I just got to meet people who just really, really cared about, whether or not I got to heaven, and like really wanted to see me grow and really cared about me as a person. And so it was just really, really beautiful. And I think that really, convicted me of wanting to share that with others. And I had an opportunity to kind of get to do that in college as well, to lead Bible studies. And that was just such a wonderful experience. And I think, like we were saying, it was, a gift that I could give of my time and like to lead others, but they became such a gift to me, and the girls became some of my closest friends. And so it was just a wonderful experience. And so I'm really excited to get to say yes to doing that full time now, and now for the students at Clemson. And so, it's been a journey for sure, but I definitely know that this is what the Lord has called me to.
Oh, I love that. I love that. All right. So at Belmont, you mentioned that you led Bible study at the Catholic Student Center. I remember us talking about that a couple of summers ago as well. And you really have a passion for Scripture and a great grasp of it. different situation though, because there you're at the Catholic Student Center and students are coming in for Bible study, right? And you're leading the Bible study. Now, all of a sudden at Clemson, you're going to be approaching people and meeting them where they are, which may not mean they're coming to you. It means you're going to them. So how's
Right.
your mindset? How's your mindset changing? I mean, are you going to just walk around the quad and see, hey, you want to talk about Jesus? how's how's that
Yeah,
going?
no, for sure. That's a great question. I think that that's a really great point. It's a lot about entering into the lives of people who we're encountering. And so um, I think what we call it is incarnational evangelization. And so kind of meeting people where they are. I think it
Hold
can
on,
be kind of,
time. That's a college phrase as I ever heard one. I think that's like 10 syllables. I want because I want to I want to write that down. Incarnational evangelization. Is
yes,
that right? I
yes.
love that. For those of us who haven't taken the SAT in the last decade, what does incarnational evangelization mean? I love that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's just like really I think it's just like having fun with people. It's like entering into people's lives and doing what they like to do. I think it can be very intimidating when you just approach somebody and or start talking about the Bible to them. And so I think a lot of the initial contacts, whether it's like tabling on campus or like eating lunch on campus, just like talking to students, it's just like getting to know them, asking how like their freshman year is going, asking, complimenting their outfit or like those sorts of things, just getting to know them as a person before you have that opportunity to like invite them into this community.
Mhm.
And it's not necessarily like shying away from your faith in it or any like in that particular way or anything, but it's more just like meeting them where they are and as to not like, I guess like overly intimidate them. Like, yeah, by trying to like I think it can be intimidating to be like, oh my gosh, I'm a Catholic missionary. Like, come join my
Right,
Bible study. It's like, no, like,
right,
how are you? Like, let's get to know each
right.
other a little bit first. And um, I think like a great example of this is like when I first started leading, my Bible study in college, like in the first couple of meetings, we were just getting to know each other because it's like you want to build that foundation of trust
Sure.
before people are really willing to open up and like actually feel comfortable in that sort of environment to like ask questions or start those conversations on faith specifically. And a lot of the girls who I was walking with or like were super involved in like the music programs, and so we would like go to their shows and like go see watch their performances. And I think that really, because it is just about being friends with people, because the more you just like grow in love for them and then you want to give to them more. And so I think just having that foundation of getting to know what their interests are and what their likes are and like how they're doing as a person before we kind of take that step deeper in faith, I think is a huge kind of starting point
Mhm.
for this mission for sure.
Oh, I love that. I can't help but think incarnational evangelization. The way that you're describing your approach to folks is so much more low key, meeting them where they are. Well, listen, everybody who gets into evangelism is called by God to to do it the way that they see fit. One example that's kind of high key, I guess, compared to your approach. Rebecca and I went to a football game in Tampa couple of summers ago, and there's a guy standing on a box, literally a soapbox, with a megaphone, reading the Bible, and then would pause every few minutes and say, "Repent or go to hell." All right, so this guy's got a much different approach than, "Hey, how's it going? Let's go give it.
Yeah, yeah.
I love your outfit today."
Yes,
Everybody,
yeah.
everybody's got a different approach, but
Right.
guess my question to you then along that line, especially given the challenges of faith that young people face. I mean, people of all generations face challenges of faith, but in particular, for those high school and college kids who have dealt with COVID, who've dealt with isolation, dealt with technology that's become such an important part of their
Yeah.
lives that it's easy to isolate, right? Like as you're talking about being at a table at Clemson, I'm wondering who's going to look up there from their phone to see you, right? So how do you think of that as somebody from that generation? How are you going to kind of break through that in many cases barrier to meeting people in person that is so common now? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I know. It's a great question. It's really funny actually because it was making me think of, at our training. One of the talks we had was about Bible study and invitation and all those sorts of things. And they kind of had some like silly scenarios, but like one of them was like somebody has like their headphones on and they're like locked in at their laptop. And it was like, how would you approach this student? And I'm like, they like don't want to be talked to. And so it's like there is like that intimidation of like, I think we all very are like pulled inward and like looking at our own, like consumed in our own little world, because like in your phone is like your own little world, and it takes a lot to look outwards. And so I think kind of still it's like, it is intimidating to approach those people, but I think they still are worthy of that. And like I think some of the things people came up with, it's just like takes a lot of boldness to approach somebody like that. Like, oh, like, are you watching the game, or that's a neat sticker on your laptop case, or somebody. I think this was a really great one. It's like, oh, are you using this outlet, and then starting a conversation from there. It's kind of you gotta meet them where they are for sure. I think. And I think too, it's really taught me a lot, like how even like on an elevator ride or like in a line for, getting a coffee, it's like how tempted I am to just like be on my phone when I could just like easily start a conversation and passing with the person next to me. And I think, yeah, just thinking that way of like how I approach others just makes me want to do it more in those little moments as well, because I think it is so easy to be disconnected because we're so like connected to our phones in this like
Exactly.
technological age that we're living in.
Exactly. It's like wearing blinders. I was an
Yeah. Oh,
airport
yeah.
chaplain. I was an airport chaplain in Atlanta for 12 years, and would
Oh,
stand in
wow.
the middle of Concourse A and say the Lord's Prayer and ask God to bring somebody that I could help, or someone that could help me. And 9 times out of 10, I'm giving people directions to breakfast, or Concourse B or whatever. But Jillian, on a regular basis, certainly in the last few years since COVID, on a regular basis, someone with headphones looking at their phone, just head down like this, would either bump into me or get a step away from bumping into me. And you and I have met before. I'm not easy to miss, but people are so siloed that they
Yeah.
lose track of the reality around them. So let me ask you this, then, switching gears away from that. I love the idea of the discipleship and the Bible study. Given what we were talking about earlier about how service to others can help you discern what God wants for you, and in fact bring you closer to God, what kind of service opportunities do you think you and the other focus missionaries at Clemson will have, if any?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I know one of the biggest ones is mission trips, and like that, what we'll have one planned over Clemson spring break, and so I think that's a really huge opportunity. I think obviously, yeah, like you said, services is a really important thing. I think we don't really emphasize it enough in like the day to day, and I think having that opportunity over a break for students is like a huge way to kind of get out of the everyday and kind of really enter into poverty and the poverty of others. I had a really awesome opportunity to go on a mission trip to Ecuador earlier this spring, and that was just like so huge for me because I think a lot of times with mission trips, you're like, like we were talking about before, it all comes back to the same thing. But like, you're like, oh, I'm gonna, I want to give so much to these people, and I realized I was like, oh my gosh, they've like given so much to me. I like, don't know the language, and like I'm trying my best to, and encounter them how I can. And we were like building a bridge for this really small community in this town called Aguas Verdes in Ecuador, and we would do like house visits, and I was like, wow, like I think it just helps you. Like, I think service is so important in that way because it, like, you see how, I think how individualistic we are, like, how kind of consumed by ourselves we are, and it helps you to really look outward. And I think that's so helpful on mission too, like on the college campus to do that ourselves and then invite students into that because it helps you to, like, see others around you more. And I know that mission trip experience really helped me coming home too because I was able to just, like, I don't know, think so much more about how I could give to others because these people who invited us into their homes were just so generous to us. And I was like, that's like not our culture here. Like, it's like nobody would just like welcome you into their home and like give you all these things. And I'm supposed to be the one that's serving them. It's,
Right. I was
it's
just going to
very,
say, you thought you were going to go down there and be generous to
yes.
them, and instead they're generous to you. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It was a really wonderful
So
experience.
let me ask you that then, because you're the first person I've talked to who's been uh, on a mission trip in the last year. Um, did you encounter when those folks are being generous to you? Totally different culture, totally different language. Were those people of faith? Were they saying, "Hey, we are followers of Jesus too," or was it a situation where it's just part of the culture of Ecuador to be generous and hospitable, and then you brought Jesus into the conversation? What did that look like?
Yeah, for sure. It's a little bit of both. I think in where we were specifically, I think it's a very culturally Catholic country, but where the small town where we were, there's not enough priests really to be serving in all these small towns. And so they'll have like mass maybe like twice a year. And so they don't like see priests very often. They don't see people who are missionaries really ever. And so I think the fact that, we were giving up well, I was kind of joining the students, but they were giving up their spring break, this like, vacation time to spend it with them, I think was very like shocking to them. And I think so there was kind of some faith, but I don't think that they have very much I guess like understanding of it fully. I think there's definitely a cultural foundation of it. And so I'm not sure how big of a part that plays, but I think the culture there as a whole is just a lot more more generous. And I think kind of in those places where there is a lot of poverty, it's just not even a question of like, how can I like give to somebody else? You're not really, I think you're always looking outward in that sense because you're in need as well. And I feel like the I think that's a really interesting thing too because I think we're very scared to like ask for help. We want to be very self-sufficient and do things ourselves, but I think the acceptance of help makes people want to be more generous as well, if that
Ah,
makes sense.
yeah, absolutely. Because you recognize it's making an impact, which is what we started off
Yes.
our conversation with. That's very interesting. And it reminds me, by the way, speaking of the poor that you met in Ecuador who were so generous about the widow's mite, Jesus, and I'm sure this is something that y'all talked about at Ave Maria. Jesus put so much emphasis on the widow who gave two pennies that are coins that together weren't even worth a penny. And that gift to him meant more than all the others that had been received because that was all she had. So, as you think about raising the funds for your ministry, you're obviously going to approach folks like me and your and my wife and your parents' age, because there's hopefully more of a financial base to support you. But just to be blunt, is there any gift too small?
No, I don't think that there is at all. I think that it's intimidating because when you're thinking about asking people for money, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't ask this person who they maybe they just graduated or maybe they're like, also a missionary. And like that sounds like
Mhm.
you're like they won't be able to, support me. But I think it's a lot more about I think that's one of the things that's been really surprising is just because somebody has the means doesn't mean that their heart is in a place to like give generously.
Yeah.
And so I think that, yeah, I think it can be intimidating to like ask somebody, but like um the Lord gives to those who are generous. And I think people have an understanding of that. And just because they might not have as much of means, they still like want to give and people are very excited and passionate about it. And so yeah, I know like even like the missionary couple who I babysat for, they were really excited to support me and they're also missionaries. And you're like, I don't want to, be more of a burden to you, but it's a gift for them as well. And so I think, yeah, like you said, I don't think there is a gift too small, and we want to invite everybody into that mission with us.
I love the fact that the missionaries that you helped last year are also supporting your ministry. That's fantastic.
Yes,
Can you tell
yeah.
us what, just kind of break down what the support looks like? And this is obviously you got to live. You're going to be living. If I recall, you got a total of six missionaries at Clemson, and y'all are all living together or nearby.
Yeah, so the support is for um, our personal expenses and also our missionary budget. And so I will be living in a house with the girl missionaries and the guy missionaries live in a house nearby. And so, yeah, we raise support so we're able to do this full time. And we can really commit all of ourselves to this mission without having to worry about having another job or really figuring out where our, support is going to come from. It allows us to live more freely in the mission and also to be able to give to our students as well, to invite them to, grab a coffee and to treat them to coffee every once in a while,
Yeah.
or to pay for Bible study snacks, or even to offer them, opportunities to come to like the big conference we put on every year or on mission trip if they're not able to provide all the means themselves, because we're supposed to like give generous. I can't say the word anymore. We've been talking about it so much. We're supposed to give generously as well, even though, because it's like, I don't, I'm a missionary, and I think that's what I thought too. Like, oh my gosh, like me, being a missionary, that's how I'm giving. But it's like I'm also called to give of what I have, because it's all a gift, and a gift from God, and I want to be able to share that with others too. And I think the biggest way I can do that is to share it with the students that I'm going to be serving.
I love that. Jillian, earlier we talked about discerning the population that you want to assist. A college like Clemson has thousands, tens of thousands of students. Do you know offhand what the population of Clemson is? I
I
want to
think
say
it's
it's
close to,
20,000.
yeah, I was going to say close to 20,000, maybe like 23,000.
So
Um,
basically a small town. Uh, and Clemson itself is a small town near Anderson, South Carolina, right? So you're at Clemson. Have you thought about what population of Clemson students you want to focus on? You mentioned freshmen who are just getting here and dealing with the challenges of faith and not having been in church anymore. For sure, Clemson is a big agricultural school. They're going to be kids from rural areas who may not have lived in a community this big for a long time. What do you think about that, or is it just, hey, I'm going to take whatever the Lord brings me, including anybody wearing purple and orange?
Yeah, I think it's for sure a little bit of both. I think that, I think we all have our own unique gifts and experiences, which adds. And I think, if there's people who I, can relate to more and understand better, I definitely want to like, go after them. It's like really interesting too, because within Focus, and specifically at those bigger schools, we really like understand Greek life. And I wasn't in a sorority myself, but two of the missionaries on my team were, and they're like, yeah, really going after like guys in fraternities and girls in sororities, and are really seeking to like help those specific populations. And so I think there's not a specific, and I like also, Belmont is not as big of a school as Clemson by
Right.
any means. And so I think it's going to be a lot of like a little bit of a learning curve of like getting to know that like bigger college town culture, a bigger college, especially with like the football culture and the Greek life. And so I'm like not exactly sure. I definitely, whoever the Lord like puts in front of me, I want to pursue. So yeah,
I
I
love
don't have an exact answer for that, but
I
I
love that.
think, yeah, just after having the experiences that I had in college, I think I definitely like my heart goes out to all the freshman girls for sure.
That's fantastic. So, Jillian, we're going to put a link to support you in the show notes. And obviously, we're going to put a link to support you in all the social media we post about this episode. What just tell folks who are listening to this and want to help support your ministry, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, oh my gosh, it means so much to me, because I am like not able to go on mission without the generous support of others. And I think the thing that I would love for people to really understand is that it's not just a donation. Like, you are coming on mission with me, because I think Mother Teresa says this, but it's like some go by giving and some give by going, and not everybody can go to the college campus, but I can. And so it would just be such an honor and such a joy to get to bring others onto this mission with me. Um, and so, yeah, so I think it's just, and it's taught me so much, and it's helped me to, um, I know it's just been such a joy to get to pray for other people and share this with other people who I never really would have thought that I would have had an opportunity to share with. So
Yeah, I
it's been
love
a
that.
really neat opportunity for sure.
Jillian, our very first guest on the podcast, Dan Kearns, is a Roman Catholic deacon in San Antonio. I need to introduce y'all because he has a true
Yes.
spirit for the Lord. He also, when he was in the Air Force, before he served with my dad in Italy in 1980s or early 1980s, served at Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines and regularly got a chance to worship with, work with, and learn from Mother Teresa. So it's
Wow.
very
Oh my
interesting.
goodness.
Very interesting that you mentioned Mother Teresa here at the end of our episode number, I think 38 or 39, as we're kind of hearkening back to number one. Dan said, and this is just riveting stuff. When you're talking to a guy who's in his late 70s about what he learned from Mother Teresa 45 years
Yeah,
ago,
that's incredible.
He said, Mother Teresa always told us, every single person has been called by God to serve someone else and
Mm.
be someone special to someone else in need. So I hope that that gives you some inspiration as you head off to Clemson, that there's, even if it's just one person, you're going to make a difference in someone's life just by dedicating yourself and putting yourself in a position to serve others. God bless you.
Thank you so much. That means the world to me. And that is so encouraging. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. So, Jillian, our signature question here on the podcast is, what does it mean to you to be a Christian capitalist? There's a lot of different experiences you've had. Goodness, Belmont, Ave Maria, Ecuador, Atlanta, growing up in Atlanta, and now off to Clemson. Putting all those things together, what does it mean to you to be a Christian capitalist?
Yeah, it's a great question. Just like reflecting on all those things. And I was praying about that this morning because I know that's like the classic question on this podcast. I think it just really means to me that to follow after Jesus's example. It's like the always like, what would Jesus do? And I think that like we're called to give in whatever area it is that we're working in, and to give of whatever we do have. And I feel like you touch on this so well in like all your podcasts and your books and everything. And I think it's just to love others through whatever it is we're doing, whether, you're, a doctor or a missionary or a mom or all those different things. We have these gifts, whether it's financial or just like your personal skills and talents. And just like however the Lord wants us to use those to do his will. And it's funny too, because it like you might not, giving might look different, depending on your different stage. It might look like inviting people into your home and hosting. It might look like supporting a missionary. It might look like, volunteering or those different things. And I think what it really comes down to is just following the model that Jesus gave us and how we are living that out.
Oh, I love it, Jillian. What a terrific way to describe the movement. Thank you so much, and thank you for your service to those by spreading the good news to them at Clemson this coming fall. God bless you. We're going to be praying for you and the success of your ministry, and good luck with the move. We just helped move our daughter out of her dorm or her apartment in Tuscaloosa. It's always fun. I like to say,
Yes.
moving's like battle. It's a fluid situation. So I hope that you
Yes,
move
I love that.
injury-free and no damage to anything as y'all get rolling.
Yes, yeah, I hope so too. Yeah, my dad and my brother will be helping me out, so that'll be great. And I really appreciate this as well. It's been such an honor to be here, and your support and your listeners' support and prayers just mean so much to me as well.
Well, thank you. God bless you. And thank you so much for joining us today. Everybody, Jillian Dacey, a missionary with Focus Ministries and heading off to Clemson University in South Carolina. Can't wait to hear how it goes, Jillian. God bless you. And thank you, everybody, so much for joining us on the Christian Capitalist Podcast, where the more we make, the more we give.